We're going to call the September CEV board meeting to order. First up on the agenda is public comment section. We don't have anybody here. We did start a couple minutes early. If somebody comes in, we'll circle back. So that moves us to the approval of minutes. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review those in your packets. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those approved say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Sorry. I got distracted by the screen for a second. It's part of my ADD. All right, that takes us to the approval of vouchers. Any questions, anything we need to talk about before we entertain a motion?
No, sir.
All right, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And that takes us to monthly reports for July.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our first report for this fiscal year, and it became quite obvious to me that our new Director of Accounting and Finance was going to make sure that we were in a position of positive with his budget, so we are way past, what was forecasted because of the tremendous weather that we had in July, and that put us way up, and we were up in both departments. So Dusty, since we're in such good shape, I'll let you say whatever you need to on how well we're positioned.
I'm pleased to share that the electric department had an outstanding month in July. Warmer weather increased our sales and led to a load factor of 63%, which is very good for us. We were fortunate not to have any significant storm events, and then our operation and maintenance costs were lower when compared to last year. Additionally, we saved $44,000 in purchase power demand through our dynamic voltage regulation program. So that continues to produce positive results. And overall, this led to a net margin of $811,595 for the month, which is approximately $550,000 more than our forecast for July this year. So
I don't know of a month ever. This is the highest month in my 40-some years that I've been here.
Yeah.
We went years, didn't see for a whole year that kind of net margin.
And then water and sewer continues to produce positive net margin for July, $138,543, which exceeded our forecast by about $22,000. I also wanted to mention in your board packets, I included related to our recent bond issuance, a report on debt obligation. This is basically just a summary of the debt that we issued in August. This is a report that is filed with the state, and we're satisfying the requirement to be sure that our board of directors sees that information that was filed with the state. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the statements or the report on debt obligation.
That's all we have, right, Dustin?
Yes.
All right, any questions, comments from the board? I will say I felt it as a small business owner. It was a hot one.
It was.
All right, moving on, project status report.
Did we have a motion and a?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we need to approve that?
We do
All right,
need it.
my apologies.
Motion.
Entertain a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Greg.
Yes, sir. Project status now, right?
Yep.
We're now tracking 4 projects, and really Todd is on top of this. I'm going to pass that on to you, bud, if you want to say something about
Yes.
that.
Thank you. Yes, like Greg said, we're currently tracking 4 projects here on the large projects on the schedule here. The first one of those now down on Ridgeview Drive, down in Oliver Springs, Ridgeview Drive, not the one over here in South Clinton. But that project's now complete, went very well as scheduled. Construction is complete with that one. The second one there, the Arrow Cable over in Stony Fork, that project has really just begun good. We're probably 20% complete in that, but all is going well as expected. Have no reason to believe it shouldn't easily be completed here in November by November as planned there. And then the last two on the list are continuing the final two phases of Mr. Hollingsworth subdivision up here towards the interstate off of Silver Springs. As you recall, the first phase of that was completed back in June. Now the second phase, we're almost fully complete with that phase of construction to complete everything on the Sulphur Springs side towards the creek. That whole area back there, the 126 lots in there, all we lack on that set 4 transformers to be fully complete with that, which we anticipate here by later this month to be through with that. So, and then the final one is a section for the planning and development of the townhouses between the highway and Sulphur Springs. They're still in the process on those of putting conduits in the vaults and the pedestals, which they were responsible for. So, kind of working with them, we've given them the plans, but I think I haven't seen a lot of construction going on their part, but on that one. So we're kind of at their mercy once they get the conduits and all that in, then we'll start the construction, pull in cables and transformers and all that. I will say, Greg Jones and I drove through today just to kind of monitor, see what the status of the construction was. We did notice that there are 3 houses now under construction up there. So hopefully get some, and I think we had at least temporary set on at least one of those now. So we have 1 meter generated revenue on that. So, any questions on any of that?
That's ongoing since 2018. 2018.
All right, don't hear any questions. Thanks for the reports and the status updates. And that takes us to the approval of purchase order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have one purchase order for approval, and it deals with work service crane and body in our water department, an F600. And since we are now recommending not the low bid, I'm going to let Greg Jones tell us why that's important.
Thank you. VersaLift was the low bidder. However, they could not meet the warranty period for the actual body itself. We required a minimum 3-year, on the body, and they was only willing to give up 1 year. And as far as rust protection, we was off at 6 years, and they was only able to give 5. So they could not meet the warranty period on the vehicle. on the body itself. Reading truck was able to. It was about $3,600 price difference, but we also received the body a lot sooner, 3 months sooner than the VersaLift on it. And this was a budget item for $135,000. So we're about $18,000 under budget for the crane body.
So, Mr. Chairman, we recommend that the board approve the truck, the 2023 truck with crane and body for $116,945.
All right. I hear a motion on the
moved.
table. Got a motion?
So much.
Got a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And it takes us to new work order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got one work order for the board's consideration on New River Highway, work order 1705. And Todd, you care to
Yes, sir. I'll be
bring them
glad
up to speed on this ACSR feeder?
Yes, this work order project will replace about 1.5 miles of what I call veteran copper line over in the New River area, or Rosedale area, New River Highway over in there. So, and also what it will do in the project will get rid of the old copper conductor, replace it with new ACSR conductors. And it's a line that's way out in the field and across the creek in a lot of places over there. It'll get it to the road to really help reliability in that area, where this is one of the areas we have always on our list of high outage rates, so which we look at and consider every year. Where can we improve reliability? So that's what's really driven this as well. Get it to better reliability and also better capacity as well. So, any questions on that?
Any questions from the board?
So moved.
Got a motion to move
Second.
forward and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Takes us to the broadband discussion. 6 minutes after our scheduled start time. I just wanted to note that.
Good. Well, buckle in. All right, Todd, we're going to go with this one. I
Yes.
think we can.
You should, and you actually can use your clicker.
That's so great. Thank you for that. Yeah,
He's got a clicker.
that's so great.
So in and of itself, shouldn't that tell us everything we need to know about this topic?
Yeah. IT is different. IT is different.
And when he says in closing, it doesn't mean anything. It's just like the Baptist preacher.
We have had, and we continue to have, and I'm pleased that we now are going to take the opportunity to do a little deeper dive into broadband and how it affects our service area, our citizens, and our ratepayers. I hope at the end of this to equip you all with plenty of information, and please stop me because some of it is granular, but like everything, I build a house from the foundation up. I just don't know how else to do it. So it might take a minute, but I think at the end, hopefully it'll be worthwhile, because what we're essentially dealing with, the clicker doesn't work by. So that's all good. I've got this right here. That is so impressive.
Other arrow.
We're going now, right? This is the issue. As the desire and demand for high-speed internet broadband grows, so does the frustration with availability, high cost, and poor service. That's what we hear mostly, the three issues. Is it available? Those that want it can't have it. How it just costs too much. And the service, every time I call those people over there, I hate them. So please do something about that. So many local utilities are installing fiber optic cables and are now offering broadband. You can't hardly get on Facebook now without KUB, saying, hey, KUB fiber is coming. So the question then is, other utilities are offering broadband service. Why isn't CUB? That's the question that we hear most. So the simple answer is, in one sentence, most other utilities are installing fiber optic cables to modernize their electric distribution system. That's why they're installing the fiber optic cables. Broadband then becomes an ancillary byproduct because they have space, surplus in those cables. Why are they putting the fiber up? To modernize their electric distribution. Why are they providing broadband? Is because they have surplus fiber within those cables to provide that. And I'm going to give you an example. Fiber to the home business plan, KUB, and I've got that right here, and it's like 22 pages. Any utility that wants to provide broadband has to submit to the state comptroller a business plan to justify how they're going to do that, because it has to be sustainable, because it is a for-profit endeavor, unlike what we now have always enjoyed, a not-for-profit. We are a monopoly. You see, we provide these services because nobody else is. A company can't come in and start providing electric, you say. So fiber, though, because it is a competitive industry, it is a for-profit, and the state has to approve what the plan is. So KUB submitted this plan. I pulled it offline. You can do the same. And I wanted to give you some examples and quotes, exact quotes, coming out of their plan as to the justification for them to put this fiber up. The first and foremost is, and they've mentioned this more than once, and it's a quote, the future of KUB's electric grid depends on fiber, the future of their electric grid. In order to meet the changing needs and expectations of its customers, KUB will need to make upgrades on its electric grid and implement innovative technologies that improve reliability and efficiency. those are exact quotes except where it's bolded. I took the liberty of bolding that out. Now, they go on to quote that many of the applications needed for these improvements depend on fast and reliable communication throughout the service territory, and that can best be provided by extensive fiber system. What it takes to put these innovations out there is a fiber system. So they've got a whole section on what they call KUB's grid modernization position for success. And the first thing they mention is AMI, advanced metering infrastructure. Quote, the deployment of advanced meters throughout KUB's service territory was completed in 2020 and is currently utilizing 150 miles of a planned 300 miles of high-speed fiber optic cable. CUB has had AMI since 2005, 15 years prior to KUB, and we have over 400 miles of fiber. And I'll tell you how we got that a little bit later on. It goes on to say in their positioning themselves for success, distributed energy resources will provide real-time visibility to distributed generation devices, which would reduce peak demand and loads on electric grid. Their expectation is to have DER on their new system. We have had DER on our system since 2000. That's almost 25 years ago. It goes on to say DVR, which you're probably most familiar with. Dusty inferred the $40-some thousand savings this past month on DVR based on the successes of other distributors within the TVA service area. Now, who are they talking about? We're the other distributors that they're talking about. We are the success that they're talking about. Based on our successes, KUB plans to pilot a Volt VAR application on its own electric system as the fiber network expands. They plan to do a pilot program that is going to do DVR. That's their expectation and hope that they're going to do a pilot program that will utilize dynamic voltage regulation. We've had dynamic voltage regulation since 2011. We've clocked down not over $9.6 million in savings to date with that, and we were the first in the valley. So on top of that, we got a $3.3 million award from TVA because we showed the rest of the valley how to do it. We have showed KUB how to do it. They have had teams over here more than once going through what we do, how we do it, because they're planning a pilot program on how to get that done. So, demand response. And these are all part of the justification for them putting fiber out there because they want the ability for demand response. The fiber infrastructure will position KUB to implement DR programs on the electric system. These devices reduce peak demand loads on the electric grid and can reduce peak, which is all what everybody's trying to do. We have had that since 2011 and over $3 million to date. We have direct load control through hot water heaters. We've got a demand partnership program, which no one else in the valley has, and that has saved us over $3 million to date. So KUB's grid modernization, again, position, they say FLISR. And we now know what that is because we've been working with that for quite some time. FLISR, KUB plans to continue to make improvements to its grid by expanding the reach of FLISR and other applications that improve efficiency and reliability, meeting its customer needs and offering them more control over their utility experience. KUB's current plan is to build less than 30% of the system-wide coverage by 2030. So they hope to have, and I think it's like 27% of their system covered under FLISR by 2030. They estimate the cost for that $57 million. CUB has had system-wide 6-county coverage since 2016. In addition to improving, this is quote, in addition to improving KUB's electric system, the electric fiber network required for these systems would position KUB to be able to provide broadband services to meet the growing needs of its customers and community. Again, why are they putting it out there to improve their electric system? It's required. They can't do it without it. They're not doing it now. This will position them to be able to offer broadband because they've got this cable out there. They've got this excess on there. And therefore, then they'll be able to offer broadband. So the takeaways are the primary reason for installing the fiber is they can enhance their grid with AMI, DER, DVR, DR, and FLISR. They hope to offset what they're projecting to be a $700 million capital cost for this fiber. KUB has raised its electric rates 3% annually every year since 22 to 25. Now, this is an electric asset because it's going to improve the electric grid. So it's not let's offer broadband, let's get in the broadband business. That's not why this is going out. That's why it is an electric asset, and that's why it is the burden is on the electric customer, and that's why they raise their rates. So what KUB will do is lease the fiber to KUB Fiber, and they're now estimated, it's right out of it here. I've got the number. That's because it's a for-profit division. $15.9 million in access fees annually at build out that KUB Fiber has to pay KUB. Cub pays zero access fees for dark fiber and zero cost to our ratepayers. 400 plus miles of fiber, right? So the desire and demand for high speed, we know availability, price, and service. Let's talk about price and cost. In March of this year, because this talks about speed, it's relevant to speed is relevant to the cost. March of this year, the FCC redefined what it considers high-speed internet or broadband as a service with a minimum download speed of 100 megabits per second. What's coming into Cub right now is 250 megabit connection is what we have. So everything we do in operations, everything we do everywhere, we're running off a 250 megabit connection, which is no problem for us. Used to be 25 was considered high speed in February, and they changed it. I remember when we were getting 5 into this building. Download speeds for a 2-hour high definition movie, which is 6 gigabits. You can see at 100 it's 8 minutes, and it drops all the way down to 2500, which is 2.5 gigs at 19 seconds. But the real deal comes with 5G. 5G internet speed, wireless. It's 10 gigabytes per second, 4 seconds. That's what we're going to get to. Now, I took this right off of the internet, and you can do the same. I had to cut and paste that 2,000 megabits because that wasn't on that same sheet. But all of that is what Comcast offers. Those are the options that you have. When you get up to 1,000 megabits or 1 gig at $65 a month, you get free Peacock, and you do that at $2,002. So they have these free phones and things like that, but they're offering these 5 that you can purchase. These are monthly fees from 30 at 150 megabits, which is half again what they consider high speed. $45 for 300, which is more than what we're getting in this company right here. But those are the 5 plans. Now KUB, what they're offering now, and I took this off the internet too, they don't offer 150, they don't offer 300, they don't offer 500. The first tier is 1 gig, and they offer that at $65 a month, matching what Comcast. Now, I'm assuming you're not going to get Peacock either. So their first offering is $65 a month. They don't offer 2,000. They don't offer 2 gig, but they do offer 2.5 at 150. So your two options for KUB is $65 at 1 gig because it's fiber to the house, and they can't downgrade that enough to make it worthwhile, or $150. At $65 for 1 gig, I mean, they're not by themselves. LCUB, I know, is $69.95 or $69.99, essentially $70, where Comcast is offering 65, and so is KUB, but not the $30 option, not the $45 option, or the $55 option. So it doesn't appear that providing utility provided broadband offers a lower cost option to the end user, which is one of the problems folks have, paying too much. But for utility on broadband, you're actually going to pay more because the median is less than $60. They're $57. 3 options at high speed internet that are less than what the lowest option is at KUB. Okay. Availability. I went into broadband.com, you can do the same, and I put in our zip code 37716. This is what they tell us that broadband is available at this zip code 37716. That's 12 providers. 12 providers in this zip code will provide you broadband at different amounts. What is it that Ken's getting? Did you just say?
Yeah. So Ken Wagner, who lives between here and the interstate up Mike Miller Lane, didn't have Comcast, but he's having T-Mobile. He's getting about 300 to 300 megabits wireless cellular, $50 a month.
So for 37716, we would be the 13th provider, you see, in competition for that. Now, if you look across our system, because we're in parts of 6 counties, these are cable companies that have attachments to our poles. So these are wired. Cable companies, not AT&T. These are wired. Doesn't include AT&T. We get $1.6 million a year in pole attachment fees from these cable companies. 1.6 across our service area. The availability, according to the FCC, which made this available as of December of 2023, 100% of the 40,000 residential units have access to fixed 100 megabit per second internet or greater. 100% in Anderson County, according to the FCC. So it doesn't appear that the lack of availability is a driving issue for us to address. Now, the Department of Economic Development, this was when Bill Haslam was the governor, Randy Boyd was the commissioner. They did a study, and they showed that 10 counties with the highest rate of availability and 10 counties with the lowest. So broadband access is needed in Tennessee, but not in Anderson County, because Bledsoe, Cannon, and Houston, 99% of their residents do not have access to broadband. But Anderson County is ninth. In 2016, all 96% had access. Now we know, according to the FCC, that that's moved up to 100%. Is there a need? Because I'd say you go to Bledsoe, Cannon, and Houston counties, I'd say they may have improved, gone from 99% without to maybe 80% without. So, service is the other issue. CB customers have come to expect and receive exceptional, immediate, 24/7 response to outages and problem resolution. However, as a CB fiber customer, broadband service will be more in line with the quality of service provided by other broadband providers rather than the 24/7 immediate response enjoyed by our electric water and sewer customers. So the bottom line is, and we have found this out, it's on KUB's website, we saw customers dissatisfied because they called and they've got a problem, and their response time is, we'll see you next Tuesday. you know, and the customer says that's not the service that we have come to expect from KUB. I mean, we've got Flizzard on this system. They're expecting great service. They wouldn't get normally. It would be more in line on, and I said on day one, and I believe this, we would provide superior customer service, and certainly we would match or exceed the standards set by other broadband providers. But we wouldn't provide that 24/7. The take, how many, if we provide it, how many are going to get it? You know, which would then, because we have to sustain a positive cash position, we have to have a profit. And for this for-profit company, that would limit the amount of people we would have available, when they would be available. So it's all intertied and connected. I think we could provide better service. You know, this is the one area I think that we could improve where the complaints are. But the bottom line, it wouldn't be the same level of service that we provide here. So the issue of availability, price, cost, and service, I think we've addressed. Question?
I had a young lady call me, not young lady, she's my age, retired from Y12.
Some very old person.
Barely remember directly.
Well, she goes to church with you, claims she's a good friend of yours, and she was gonna be in your next after she left me.
Good.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, sir. There's a lot that fit that description.
If I remember, it's been 15 years since I retired, so medium height, thin lady, kind of curly black hair. She lives out, I'm gonna say Dutch Valley, maybe Dutch
Now,
Valley.
listen, Liz Cobb lived out in Dutch Valley, and she would call me every time the wind blew.
This lady claimed that her mother was a house at the end of the line of Comcast service, and her mother was on CUB Electric. Her house next to her mother's could not get Comcast broadband service, but that we did get CUB Electric. So she was frustrated because she couldn't get broadband one house down.
Right.
Is that, how does that
I had that happen in my house. Bill Bivens and Zora had it,
We love them, right?
and I had to pay $3,000 to get it to mine.
Right.
And I mean, we're in the city limits, but now I was able to pay it, work to deal with them. AT&T's cost versus Comcast's cost over 3 years, I was able to reconcile that. But I had to pay them to send a construction company out there.
And that's what you would have to do if you built a house up on the hill. You say it took 3 spans to get there. We would charge you for that extra too, depending on where you live. We've got good friends that, and I won't name any names, but Steve Harrelly out there on Miller Road. Steve's got that problem too. So it then becomes availability. And what are you willing to do about that availability? Comcast doesn't, because they're for profit, they're not going to spend $3,000 to get $50 a month. You see, they're going to ask you to spend that, and then they'll maintain it for $50 a month. So availability, just like one of the folks that work here, and you talked to him this afternoon, he gets T-Mobile. That's wireless. That's coming out of the cloud. That's at 250 or 300.
350 megabits, what he's
Yeah, which
consistently
is-
getting.
3 times the high speed. So the availability, historically, it hasn't been that great. But now with all of these providers, that you'll have that availability. So you may be talking, about Liz Cobb's daughter out there, which would be my guess. And I love her too, by the way. I'll pay her bill if it came down to it. I
So
love
moved.
her.
Oh, sorry, was that a motion?
No, it was not a motion. But the availability, there's no question that, according to the FCC, there's 100% availability to everybody in Harrison County.
so
But not always Comcast.
okay, so that's the difference. And while her mother has Comcast, she may not be able to get Comcast, but she has some other alternative available.
That's correct.
And
That's
so
correct.
basically, in a nutshell, KUB is doing this, and they're killing two birds with one stone. And the high-speed internet for consumer is one of those birds.
It's
but
it's
the
another
it's the
revenue
small
stream
bird.
to help offset the 700 million
Correct.
that they've got to put out there in order to modernize their system.
But also, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there infrastructure money from the federal government that was part of the Biden economic plan that had to be spent by 2022, 2023? And so they also got a capital investment opportunity. Wasn't there some of those funds that were made available to help build this out?
Absolutely,
I know it happened in the
and I'll
rural
tell you
areas.
about
Yeah.
that. I'll tell you how that works because it's all scaled to underserved or unserved.
That's right. It's all USDA was distributing it. And that's
So when you get to Anderson County,
Yeah.
and they say 100% have access, there is no unserved or underserved.
So two other things, because I've had some phone calls as well. If I'm not mistaken, there's also another component to this that because of another contractual relationship we had would cost us potentially more money because we had to unwind it.
What
That
a
relationship,
lead
right.
in to the next slide.
You're welcome.
That was perfect.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
If for whatever some reason out of left field, we decide to tell Comcast to step in, pull your lines down, go away, is there a law or an ordinance or federal regulation that requires us to support a broadband entity if they want to use our poles?
Yes, we cannot deny. We cannot deny. But we could certainly tell them that we don't have a contract with them anymore. That's our prerogative. We have that prerogative. But we do have contracts, and I'm going to show you why they're really good contracts and we would want
So we'd have
to
to
do
renegotiate a contract if we want to give.
exactly. And the contracts is the next section on this thing. I want to tell you a little bit about dark fiber because it's all tied. In 2001, and this is according to the Fiber Optic Association, you can look it up. I did. The .com and fiber optic bubble of 1995 to 2001 burst. You remember the .com situation where all that went. If you invested in .com, you sure remember. That provided a 70% decline in the fiber optic industry. And the burst left 90% of the installed fiber in the prior 5 years remained unused, dark. So 90% of the fiber that they put out was dark. They had no use for it. Well, when that became apparent to us, we then called our cable providers and we negotiated how to get some use of those dark fibers. And we started that conversation, and by 2002, and I'm using Comcast because we had 3 different contracts, we executed a non-compete contract with Comcast in return for our exclusive access to 8 dark fibers. We generally have 2, could be as much as 4, and then we wanted 4 more for redundancy. So we have exclusive access to 8 fibers. When we realized that the dark fiber surplus, we engaged in negotiations with all 3 of our cable providers, Iris, Comcast, and Brooks Fiber, which turned into Verizon. By the end of 2002, we had a non-compete agreement with all 3 cable providers in exchange for exclusive access to dark fibers for our fiber ring, the communication that we needed, the 400 miles of fiber. Now, we've got 14 miles of fiber with Brooks Verizon, 260 miles of fiber with Iris, and 149.6 miles of fiber with Comcast.
And each provide 8.
Yeah, well, yes, and some as much as 16.3. So that depend on our network, what we needed is what we negotiated. Now with Comcast, these are right out of and I've got that contract right here. That's 40-some pages. The leasing agrees to supply and construct Cubs fiber network, which shall consist of 8 dark optical fibers installed by licensee and routes described where we needed it. The construction of CUB fiber shall be completed by the September 1st, 2002 at zero cost to Cub and shall thereafter be maintained by the licensee during the term of the agreement at zero cost to CUB in accordance with the requirements. So no cost to us, no cost to install, no cost to maintain, and exclusive use of that fiber 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the data is going to be for internal communication between CUB facilities and its customers, specifically for the right of networking, metering, load management, and other similar utility. Anything that we need it for. And I put gas in there, electric, gas, water, and wastewater, because I wanted to reserve if we ever got into the gas business. So that's in our contract. We've got that. Now the contract says that we'll only use it for our own internal use and not sell it or lease it to anybody else. Essentially, we agree not to utilize the fiber network to compete with Comcast or the other cable companies with their contract. Now, in the event of termination, I love this part. In the event of termination of this agreement, Cub shall have the right to purchase the CUB fiber network for a whopping $1,000. So if they went bankrupt or anything happened in the contract, our Cub network will be ours for $1,000. So what is the value of these contracts to us? You know, it's hard to say. We put a dollar amount on the past 22 years of access because that's how long we've had it, 22 years. Now, fiber is only, the life of the fiber is they're saying 20 years, could be 30, maximum 40. So some of that maintaining, they're already replacing, right? 22 years, zero cost to us. Replacement cost, if we had to do it, millions of dollars, no question about it. We, rule of thumb, in terms of cost, to get system-wide, to install the cost of fiber optic cable system-wide will be in excess of $100 million for us, which then rivals our total electric plant to provide fiber optic cable, because most of that would be on our own. We've got Anderson County at 100%. If there's portions in Morgan, Scott, Union, we might be able to get some federal money, matching money, 50% or more maybe, but over $100 million if we're going to go system-wide. So I thought I would list the utilities in the valley that have this type of agreement with the cable providers, that have access to dark fibers at no cost for a non-compete agreement. And that was easy because it's only us. Of the 153 within 7 states, no other utility has an agreement to provide access to dark fibers with the cable companies. Why? Because we did it in 2001 and 2002 when there was the surplus. They're just putting in AMI. They just finished that at KUB. They don't even have that at Oak Ridge. That wasn't even on the horizon of their thoughts that they would ever need it. So I can tell you this, can other utilities get this type of agreement? Absolutely not. Can we get this type of agreement if a new cable company came on? I'm telling you, no, because we tried. Highland came on, we tried to get it. No, there's no way we're going to get access to that. So would Iris, Verizon, and Comcast like to terminate this contract? You bet they would. Can they term the contract? No, they can't. They can't do it. There's no way. Yes, sir?
What's the term of the contract?
The term is unending
There's no end date?
until we end it.
Yes. This contract
Oh my
is
gosh.
Solid. So
it is the craziest contract I've ever seen.
Why did
Most
they do that?
beneficial to CUB.
Why would they have signed it to begin with?
because
The timing of it.
because
It's all time.
we almost need to go into executive session because I told them that we were gonna get into the broadband cable business.
Some revenue was better than none in their mind. That's what it was. We
Well,
already had it
And
installed.
they've gotten 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the cost of
I told them
fiber,
I was gonna go into it, but I wouldn't if they gave us these dark
the
fiber.
cost of fiber today is insane.
Yeah, you could.
It's a resource that is very scarce.
So can they terminate the contract? They cannot do it. Unless we compete in broadband. That's the only way they get out of the contract. Now, TVA, because part of these contracts are tied with pole attachments. So TVA and pole attachments, the problem in the valley was they were so varied in cost. Our good friends in Bristol, they rawhided their expenses and they could justify a very high pole attachment. Our good friends in Mississippi, they didn't do that, and it was a very low pole attachment. So there was a big discussion with the cable companies saying, we're getting killed by providers of TVA power and the difference in the rates that we're being asked to pay. We agreed to go on to this AT&T contract, to standardize a rate. Well, TVA wanted to standardize across the valley, so they let it be known as our regulator that we had to terminate all of the contracts we had for pole attachments with any provider that we had, and then put in place this new agreement. And we told them we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it because of the negative effect it would have on our ratepayers because of the contract that we have with these dark fibers, because it would negate that, and then we'd never get that back. And TVA said, well, you've got to do it. We said, no, we're not going to do it. And essentially, you're going to have to sue us to do that. And this is 3 or 4 years ago. So TVA then, and the regulators, we brought them in, we showed them what we had, we gave them copies of the contract, and they were amazed. So we got an exception of all of the LPCs in the valley. We got an exception for that because of the contract we have, because of the obvious millions of dollars of negative impact it would have on our system. So we're the only ones that have it, and the only way we can lose it is if we go into the broadband business. So then I thought, well, the future of broadband is worth a quick discussion. This is Hewlett Packard in 2020, April 2020, put this white paper out. The push to install fiber optic cable internet to the rest of the country has slowed thanks to the advent of 5G wireless internet. 5G will give us speeds 10 times faster than fiber optics without wires. The major carriers are in a race to roll out 5G. Most have pulled back their ambitious fiber plans or have abandoned them. Now, the fact is that technology is continuing to advance, and there have been advances in fiber optics also. I mean, we had 288 fibers in a cable. Now they're as much as almost 7,000, and they've shrunk what's neat. So they're improving all the time. This FTTC, which is fiber to the curb, this gets fiber to the utility pole outside your house and then coax from the pole to your home. That's what most of us have. That's what Comcast, for example, provides. That's what I have at my home, Now, fiber to the home is what KUB provides, because guess what? Comcast's not going to let them use that coax from the pole to your house. So they got to bring fiber all the way to your house to do that. And then what's coming in this 5G is what they call fiber to the node, the last mile, the fiber optics to get within 1 mile of your house. And that's where they are now. 5G has the size of a shoebox, what they call mini mask, and they fit almost anywhere. And in 5 years, that shoebox will probably be the size of a Snickers bar, you see. That's the advances that you're talking about. And that 5G then they're talking about as many as 60 mini masts within a square mile. And that's what's going to get you 5G out everywhere. And that's what the tremendous speeds now they're talking about and their ability to do. I've heard terms of 400 gigabytes. You know, I mean, if you can imagine that. You know, so fiber is the backbone of 5G. You can't have 5G, can't have 4G, can't have nothing unless you got fiber. You know, but where does it terminate? It terminates, I think, at the node, and then wireless. So there'll be no wires to the house. So what will evolve is everything's wireless. You pick your phone up, you don't have a wire attached to it. You do your iPad, you don't have a wire attached to it. You do your laptop now at the house, and generally you're on your own network, wireless network. That's what it's going to come to, and the speeds are just going to go crazy. And of course, then you've got Elon Musk and Starlink and satellites, and they're doing all that. Everything is evolving, and it is evolving today. You know, high-speed internet is here to stay, and it's going to stay there. But I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. To spend $100 million or whatever, you know, to say I need fiber to the home, I don't see that in the future. I see 5G and 6G and 7G. That's coming in the future. So when we say, okay, we've got a contract, we've got availability, there is no price difference. The only thing I can tell you is we would provide better service. So what we would lose on day one is tremendous. What we would be able to offset that with to the end user would really be negligible, because they would lose 3 options that are lower cost, and we would be out there trying to replace what we now have already got in place. That cost us nothing. So I put together an executive bullet point summary for you all, so you would have, and it talks about why, you know, we've had this access to necessary fiber to support all of the cutting edge technologies with no rate increase, and the reason that the other utilities are putting it out there is to provide fiber optics for their system improvements, which they don't have, which we already have and have had. Cost, why it costs the 3 optional high-speed internet rates are lower than KUB's right now, and both KUB and Comcast have a 65 1 gig rate, and LCUB charges $69.99 for 1 gig. So I'm taking away the cost advantage. I'm taking away the availability by telling you that 12 already are competing within 37716. And the FCC says 100% access within Anderson County. And the service is the only thing I'm telling you. It wouldn't be what is being provided by this utility for the monopolies that we have of electric, water, and sewer. It would be more like other broadband providers. And then the contracts, millions of dollars that's affected by these contracts. So that, coupled with the future, the uncertainty of the future, and the diminished necessity of fiber to the home, I don't see that as something that's going to be out there doing that. That's all I've got.
You know, Greg, I have incredibly mixed feelings about this topic. I hate paying Comcast.
Many do.
And I wish that CUB could do something. But it makes no sense whatsoever for CUB to get in this game.
I agree.
And I hate that. But I also love the contracts that are in place that ultimately benefit the ratepayers.
I became manager in 1999, and this was one of the first things that I started working on. And I'm on the phone with the lawyers and New York City. You should have been into that conversation. Again, hammering out this contract, but Gilbert was working with us then, who was excellent, by the way. Hammering out this contract, it is gold. It is gold. And it's been, it's not like we ripped them off, you know. It hasn't been a disadvantage to them, but it certainly has been an advantage to us. And you don't want to apologize for saying that we signed a non-compete clause and that puts us out, because we can get out of this tomorrow, you know. But what we would lose, it would be too much.
I'll do my best on city council televised to say 6 minutes in. I think that was the reference you had. But, you know, to go online and look at the meeting, because I mean, there's no use in me explaining this, and I can't do it as good as you can. I don't know, how do we get people educated? Do we make this, is it such that you make this presentation available on the website?
Well, we can do that.
I mean,
The-
so that,
the
so
only
that
thing
if you
that-
see somebody at church, or if you see
the-
somebody, I mean,
My hesitation is because it is an implied shot at our sister utilities.
well, and maybe we come back differently. Maybe we take, and I understand and I respect that and I agree with that. But maybe could we, I mean, to keep from hearing this over and over and over, and you know, it's hard to give somebody the answer to this between Sunday school and church. And it's hard to give the answer to somebody on this after you've eaten and you're waiting together to go sit down to eat, and they get called and you don't. I mean, this is not a, how long did it take you? Seriously, I mean, I'm not being facetious, 30 plus minutes.
50.
But I mean, but it's well defined, and you I don't think you have any questions much. I think in your presentation you answered most questions. So my point is it worth you doing another presentation and taking out, maybe changing some language? I don't know. I'm just saying, and you could say, you know, that's a great topic, and the staff at CUB has a bullet on its website that in depth
Well, we can
talks about
bring,
that.
I can put the executive bullet points summary on there.
Yeah, because there were what, 6, 7 slides?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, the presentation.
David's asking if
The-
we can get copies of the presentation as well.
Well, it so happens in anticipation of maybe that would be a question. I made copies.
It still seems to me we've got a gap, even if it's just in the minds of the people who think I have no coverage and don't know where to go or what to do other than complain.
That's where we would put them on this broadband.com, and that would show them all the options that they
And
have.
see, that could be
And
part of your
the
presentation.
rates. And the rates, because you don't need, again, we're rocking 250, it's all we need right here. You don't need a gigabyte coming down for you and your laptop and we stream at home. Nancy and I do. We've got Comcast, we've got cable, we got everything they've got, you know. But we got an Apple TV, and we stream all of our stuff off of that Apple TV, and never have a problem with speed or anything like that, you know. So I'm saying, like our buddy that works over in operations, he's running at 250, 300, and he's what, $45? Was it $50?
But I think it's a lack of people knowing. I mean, you are in the utility industry, and other people are. They understand these things. But you get all kinds of, you know, the T-Mobile commercial. I mean,
Right.
they've got a great commercial. It's kind of catchy sometimes, but the average consumer in Dutch Valley or Westwood Valley, or even myself, might not know. So even if part of something may be as an alternative, for if CUB or if Comcast is not in your area, here are some possible alternative providers. And I don't know, you know, advertising other providers, do you some way?
I would advertise broadband.com and have a look.
Okay,
They
then you
could
could do
find
that.
themselves. But now, I've spent a lot of I'm finding stuff out that I was unaware of too. You see, because I went into the deep dive for this presentation, and I said, well, wow, you know, I didn't know that there were 12 providers in 37716. Would have never get, and that's only going to either get more or
Consolidation.
or it'll consolidate. That's right.
And when it
And it'll be
consolidates,
less.
better service.
That's right. I believe that.
I think it's just a matter of education, and I don't know how you do that, but everybody is so used to coming off the pole or coming off.
Yeah, well, you would hate to say, well, we have a non-compete clause with our cable providers, because then well, why do you have that? Do you see? I mean, you have that, and therefore now you're not able to provide me cable TV. What a stupid thing to do.
Right.
You know, when
without explaining all the
the
benefits.
millions of dollars associated with that.
And they're all valid questions, because you watch the UT football game, you see all the coaches of their KUB fiber headset. They're spending so much money on marketing to get their message out there, because they are for profit and they have to. That's that business. You've got to be cutthroat to get the message out there.
We didn't really get into the operations
Right.
of this.
Market penetration. What do you think you need?
Well, even beyond that, just from a technical standpoint, you would have to hire a completely different staff and or outsource certain functions of it.
We
Along
would,
with
if
to
the board
support that
decided
edge
that no matter what, and I would really try to dissuade that, but if the board decided, well, this is what we want to get into, then we'd have to get a consultant, because we need to then look at where we're going to place these folks, the equipment, we got to hire the right people, and we got to get the links. And I know it's not like you put wire up, that stuff automatically happens, you know.
There's
And then-
constant care and feeding of it.
And then you've got customer service coming in, and you know, yeah, there's a lot. There would be a lot to that. Not insurmountable, you know, but still, it's the why would we want to do that? What's the driving force to make us do that? What we would have to, so many steps that we have to take back, and at the end of the day, the end user who we're trying to protect, we would actually give them less opportunity to have a lower cost option, you know. So
Maybe we ask the city of Clinton, so we stay away from any compete issues, to have part of their website or a person designated for a while to be an advisor. If you can't get broadband within the CUB world, call this number, call this person, and they can explain to you what the other offerings are, where you go to find out about them, what their costs are.
the thing that gets me, and the only thing that puts Cub in the picture, is because I don't know, 10 years ago, the state said that utilities can start providing broadband. And the reason the state did that is because the counties that had zero access, because it's for profit, and therefore they're not going to put fiber into a place where it's a mile and a half between a house. See, they're not going to do it. But so they're saying, well, now can the utility do a job? So there wasn't a big jump, but there was some that jumped right away into broadband. Now they're incentivizing through grants to get to these underserved and not served folks. So Cub is here because KUB is doing it, and Morristown is doing it, and Harriman is doing it. And the reason that they're doing it is for what we just said, you know, to do. I'm sorry that we even have to address a for-profit company within the not-for-profit, we're only here to serve monopoly, not-for-profit. That's the world we live in, because we could provide food service better than Kroger's because of the way we run our business. You see, we could improve every aspect, and for the focus to be on broadband, which is 100% access, when 13% of the children in Anderson County are underfed or underserved or don't have medical or something like that. You think, well, that's really where you'd want to put your resources and your energy because that does make a difference. You know, those are the kind of things I hate that we're even in it, but we are. And the reason we're in it is because others are doing it. I think we've got a great reason why we're not doing it. And to your point, Steve, the more we get that message out, the better it is.
The gap is still understanding what else is available and how we get that information out there for folks to get a hold of in a manner that they can understand it and use it.
So when you see Beth the next time you see Beth, you won't be you say, "Oh, man, we got a good reason for that." You know?
I'm going to tell her to see you.
Yeah, I love her.
I think David has a question.
Council,
Okay,
and I may spend a few minutes trying to read through some of this,
sure.
and it's broadband.com.
Broadband.com.
Will tell you the 12 providers.
That's right.
David had a question.
Yes, sir.
So, to Mr. McBride's point, talking about people asking us the questions, and if we are convinced with your presentation, it's very well put together,
Thank
by
you.
the way. If we're convinced, and our ability, my ability anyway, I don't question anybody else's, to convey that to people when we meet them, is, he said, you know, between Sunday school and church or whatever, why could not people be invited to have heard this presentation so we wouldn't be going put on us to, like he mentioned, city council. I mean, if some of our city council members would have been here, I know they get more questions than I do because they're city council members. They're in a position. City mayor, city council, county commission, county mayor. If those people could have been here and heard the presentation, some of the community leaders, then it would have put it out there a little broader instead of just this board having the responsibility to convey that to the constituents that are not really our constituents, are not elected or appointed. So I asked Mr. Fagan how it was advertised that we were going to be doing this tonight. And he said it's on our website. And I don't know how many people are sitting around.
Oh,
listening every-
nobody.
sitting around every day, you know, as they're watching television, looking at CUB's website. So I guess my point is, this was very good, but I think it could have been a lot better and gone a lot farther had it been done.
Can we do something like that? Is it worth inviting in leaders? Is there
I
a reason
am
not to?
the ninja of PowerPoint. And I will be glad because of the passion that we have for what we do, always to provide the best service, the leading cutting edge. Everything about this speaks to the uniqueness of what we do and the cost savings that we have. It's all good. It is all good.
So why don't you come? Why don't we work it out?
You invite me and I will speak anyway.
You come to county or city council,
I will do it.
and then it would also be a good
go
presentation to
to-
do it in county
I
commission.
would go to county commission. I'll go anywhere you want.
Whichever one you go to.
I think you could save, I still think you could save yourself a lot of meetings.
I get more questions from
And
people.
Gary? Yeah. Well, of course, they are tech-minded folks over there. Gary and his wife.
Well,
They understand.
that's not where Gary's coming from.
Okay.
Gary's coming from his old position as a union leader at White 12. And a lot of people call him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that anybody, reasonable person, that would sit through this could, at the end of the day, say, "Oh wow, I still think CUB ought to get into the broadband business."
So to Director Crowley's point, I don't know if you could hear it or not, because I think your back was turned when he was speaking. He mentioned, you know, you could save yourself a lot of meetings if we had done it just in one coordinated fashion. Would it be worthwhile to host a community meeting? And just
So I believe if you put the invitation to these community leaders, whoever they are, and you say to them, we're going to be discussing broadband, and then you do the same presentation for them that you've done for us, on the big screen or wherever you could do it. There's probably room in here for the main leaders of the county, you know.
I'll be glad to do that.
And then it would give your presentation a whole lot more fiber itself. It'd go out in a lot more area than just us trying to do that as we see it and understand it. You know, it takes me a little while to absorb it. So that was just my thoughts. I was thinking, my gosh, why weren't they here? Then we would have had all of these people sort of, at least they could have been here and heard it and said, and then if they had questions, they could have asked them to you, your staff, get them answered, get the monkey off our back, so to speak, and get it out there in the public and say, you know, here's why. Does that make any sense to anybody in this meeting?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all I got to say.
I think you can accomplish the same thing taking it to them. I think you're more apt to get more participation that way. I'd go to the city council. I'd go to the county commission. You're in their home. They'll be there. They can't go anywhere. There's going to be 15 or 20 of them at one and 6 or 8 at the other. I think you can get that message out. Maybe a little timing may be off a little bit. But I think given where we are today, going direct to them will get the same accomplishment. So particularly with when you see the date,
Anybody that invites me, Rotary or anything else.
The 20th, are you available the next, well, we can talk at the next council meeting. I'll work it.
Sure. When
I
is
don't-
it?
Well, the date is the 23rd.
So I don't think you'll get that kind of time with county commission though in some of those meetings. I've been involved with all those meetings.
They'll resent it, won't they?
Yes, I think the invitation is what's necessary. I'm gonna put that out one more time and then you guys do whatever you wanna do, but I think the invitation is what's necessary. If you'll invite them to hear what you have to say, they're gonna come in to hear or wherever it is with the attitude, we're going to hear Mr. Fay's presentation and hear CUB's side of this. And believe you me, they will be interested because when they're invited in a public forum, and the people know they're invited, and it's going to be their responsibility because it's their constituents that's asking all the questions to come and get the information for them. And I believe you'll have better success. One meeting, and invite as many of them that want to come, and do it one time, and take your time, have all the time you need. That's,
Yeah, for what it's worth, I agree with what David's saying.
Yes.
Sorry.
Why we had a
I was
sidebar
just
going.
asking like where would you do it? He said you could do it in meeting room, but you could
Well,
invite even.
I think it goes beyond the leaders because the questions, I mean, the people that are asking the questions constantly, and we know who they are because we get the same questions, the same people, they need to be at that meeting too. It's not, I think it goes beyond just the leaders. But I do think one public forum discussion about it where you lay it out, some people aren't going to be able to process it in that time, and there are going to be some circular questions and discussion. But I think when you have it in that way, it's open to a lot more than just the elected officials. That's my 2 cents, because even if you give it to the elected officials, and no offense to the elected
Well, I know,
officials, they're going to keep asking.
Well, the thing about it is, the thing with city council is it's advertised, or it's recorded, and people watch it over and over. And if we want to do that one, I don't disagree with inviting even Oliver Springs people or whoever. I mean, their county commissions or city councils and things, I don't know.
you would be a little bit open to, if you invite the general public, then it'd be a little bit difficult for Greg because it's a little bit harder to keep order than it is for people that are used to being in a meeting. You kind of open yourself up, I think, to a lot of chaos sometimes. Ridiculous questions that, as Steve said, circle, but they not only circle, they're not questions. They'll ask it as a question. It's a hard statement. And you can get into the public that will never understand. So,
Well, let's just try something.
and I think somehow, if we can get it to our leaders, let it be their responsibility. Let it be their responsibility to pass it on or keep it,
That's fair.
or,
Let them
whatever,
have
not
knowledge.
believe it or go along with it or not go along with it. But when you're giving your presentation, I think you went through it very well. very informative, got the bullets afterwards. Think you did that uninterrupted with intelligent people. They're gonna sit and listen and at least go away and digest that and work with that as any of us have tonight. That's my thoughts.
I'm available whenever, whoever, period. You know, we've got a great story here. I mean, really, it's something that we're very proud of. And we go all the way back to Steve. It's been years now. You said sometimes you know you gotta get that out there. We never blow our own horn, although we're trying to do it more now. But you let me know, and we'll talk with Mayor Frank, you know, and see if she thinks, because I can't do this thing in 10 minutes.
No,
You know,
You're gonna need some time, so.
and it doesn't have to be next week.
right?
I mean, it's something that's been ongoing for some time. I think anything you do is worth considering and giving it time to get it right. And you've done that very well tonight. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have covered that
Already
topic
have.
thoroughly tonight, and I appreciate you putting that together, just with a few weeks' notice. Let me make one last call for any other business that we have.
I do have one more
Go
thing,
for
if
it.
that's okay.
Go for it.
And I'm sorry, but it may just take just a minute. Safety is paramount here at Cub, as you know. Some of you remember this past July, a lineman at Appalachian Electric Co-op, which was my former employer before I came here. I worked at Appalachian Electric. He was tragically electrocuted while installing some conductor. This incident underscores the critical importance of safety in our industry. And at Cub, we deeply integrate safety into our culture and continuously emphasize and reinforce its importance. So in recognition of our commitment to safety, Cub was honored by the APPA, American Public Power Association, with the highest safety recognition, their diamond status, this past April. And we were only one of 18 nationwide to receive that recognition. Our safety program includes external safety training and education through Tennessee Job Safety and Training. We do supervised inspections. We offer specialized training, conduct supervised inspections, ensure regulatory compliance, and if necessary, carry out accident investigations. We actively manage and about 25 written policies that require research, ongoing, and updates, and these policies encompass essentially OSHA's mandated and federally required guidelines. So we received a safety report. We recently got it back from a safety audit done on August the 20th. It had over 300 compliance test inspections, which is 16 pages. I've got copies of all of that if anyone's interested. So the auditor conducting this comprehensive and thorough audit, he provided us with a clear, in order for me to provide you with a clear understanding of the report's scope, I'm going to tell you that they looked at the main office area, the engineering and operations building, the transformer pole yard, the meter shop, the electric warehouse, the water warehouse, the transformer building, the equipment shed, water treatment plant, bucket trucks, digger trucks, water trucks, parked vehicles, dock area, wastewater treatment plant, Clinton, Buffalo, Hines Valley, and Oliver Springs substations. And he went through 8 bucket trucks, 5 digger trucks, all of the trucks, every truck we have in both water and electric, and trailers associated with that. So his comments, I'll get to his comments. Congratulations on a perfect score on your 2024 safety audit. Cub has scored perfectly on 4 of the last 5 audits. A perfect score is quite an accomplishment, and Cub should be very proud of a perfect score. Cub constantly scores well on safety audits and has never had over 4 deficiencies noted on the checklist since 2012. And to give you an idea of what one of those were, OSHA 126.303C2 says floor and bench mounted grinder shall be provided with work rests which are rigidly supported and readily adjustable. Such work rests shall be kept at a distance not to exceed 1/8 of an inch from the surface of the wheel. One of those gigs where we were 1/4 of an inch from the surface of the wheel, and that got us a gig. So that's how much they are, which wouldn't be so bad, except that the next year we had the same deficiency. And then we had what I can only call a religious experience trying to get that squared away. But I wanted to give you the scope of the level. And every bucket truck, every truck, the warehouse, the dock area, everything, and 5 substations, not one deficiency shown in all of that. So we're very proud of that. We really are. Safety is a key for us. We fortunately, and I don't know of many utilities, I don't know of any offhand that have never had a fatality associated with our work in either the water and sewer department or the electric department. So I wanted to share that good news with you. We're very proud of it.
Yeah,
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for sharing that. That's great. Safety
Appreciate
is
it, Greg.
always the most important aspect of any operation. So thanks for sharing that. Any other business? Nope. Steve, anything?
No.
Steve? Nope. David? All right, meeting adjourned.